Okay, it's the first day back after my annual leave, and one of the biggest difficulties that any small business person has is getting annual leave, taking annual leave, being able to organise annual leave. And this time, as usual, I've taken 1 week off, as I normally do every year. I was in Sorrento in Italy there for the week. Very enjoyable week. But one of the difficulties then coming back is catching up on what I've missed out on, catching up on correspondence, on files, on any issues that may have arisen in the office. That can be a real problem for small business owners, especially small solo practitioners, solicitors, accountants and so on. But for other people as well, in other businesses, I've always found it difficult, because the bottom line is, when you're running a small business, the buck stops with you, and you don't really have any choice but to carry the can. So when you're away, there's always a certain feeling of being your business being out of control, and you're always kind of wondering in the back of your mind, what's going on? Is there any problems? Is there any issues that perhaps you should be dealing with, and so on? But obviously, everybody's entitled to their annual leave. Everybody's entitled to their holidays. Anyway, let's have a look and see. Basically, I'm going to be faced for the next couple of days with a catch-up situation. So it's the 2nd or 3rd. In fact, it is the 3rd of October, Monday the 3rd of October, just back in the office. So let's take a look and see what I have to look forward to. Okay, firstly there's the correspondence and the files and the issues. So there's memos I can see here, and there's various bits of correspondence, various files that I'm going to have to deal with, and that is what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of days. In addition to that, then I'm going to have a look at my emails. So if we have a look here at the email situation. Okay, normally I go for an email out of office inbox 0 situation, and on this email catch up, you can see there I have 179 emails to catch up on. That's going to take a bit of time, and the calendar then is another thing I'm going to have to catch up on. So the calendar records all of the previous week we want. The calendar calculates or records all of the calls that we've had in the previous week. I have a system here of recording all calls on the calendar, and whoever answers the phone then puts it in the calendar. So the name of the person, the telephone number, the matter, whatever it's about, will be on the calendar. And I'll have to take a look at all of the calls that came in the last week and follow up on them, see if any action needs to be taken, or if I need to follow up or email them or call them back or whatever. So 179 emails, all of the calls that have been rang in and left, messages left, have to be dealt with, and obviously the files that I have over there that I've had a look at just now will have to be followed up with. And then I'm going to have a sort of a debrief session with the two girls when they come in at 9 o'clock. It's 6:15 now. I start work every day at 6 a.m. It's 6:15 this morning, and this is what I'm going to be having a look at, or doing basically, for the next 2 days. It is a problem. It's always a problem when you're self-employed and you're a small business owner. It's not like walking away from a big business like, Marks and Spencer or Ryanair or Smurfits or someplace. When you're a small operator, a small business, then the buck stops with you, and you need to pick up the pieces when you come back. You need to pick up any loose threads, any messages, any correspondence, any issues that have arisen. Buck stops with me. So that's what I'm going to be doing and tackling with or grappling with for the rest of today and probably tomorrow, and then I'm back into full swing on Wednesday, taking consultations again and so on. Okay, so I'm making my way through my 300 emails or whatever it is, 294 emails, and slowly but steadily getting through them. One of the things though that it struck me just in terms of coming back after being away and being a sole practitioner or being a small business owner, one of the important things is to be able to rely on decent staff, good staff, and I must say I'm lucky here in Enfield with my staff. They are competent and they're mature and they're reliable, and they know how I operate and the standard operating procedure and so on. So that's very, very important, to have good staff that you can rely on to do the right thing when you're away. It's not always going to be perfect. There's always going to be some issues or some mistakes made, but that's fine, provided a person is doing their best and showing up on time and putting their best foot forward and giving their all to the job, then that's fine, and people will make mistakes. I came across, or I heard a very interesting interview in the last couple of years with the former Dublin manager Jim Gavin, who was talking about this idea of leadership and leading from behind, actually creating the conditions for the team, the Dublin team at the time, the 4-in-a-row team, at the time it was, to react to circumstances on the day themselves. In other words, they actually provided the leadership themselves on the field. And this idea of Gavin standing on the sideline with his arms crossed, just watching in a very dispassionate, unemotional way, was something that struck me. It was remarkable, especially in games where the fat was really in the fire and there was a real danger that they'd lose a big match. Gavin was always imperturbable on the sideline, standing there like some sort of a sphinx, like some sort of a Buddha. But he mentioned this question of leading from behind, and I think he studied some leadership books and some management books and so on, and he obviously has a good job himself as chief executive or top man with, I think it's Dublin Airport or the Irish Aviation Authority or whatever. But he's obviously put a great deal of thought into leadership and managing, and that particular one, not leading from the front but leading from behind, is one that struck me as is an idea or a concept that's well worth investigating. And it's something I must do actually, but it just struck me there as I'm making my way through my emails and so on, and trying to get the show back on the road, get back on an even keel after being away for a week. The importance of having good staff and persons that you can rely on, and thankfully I'm in that lucky position. Okay, so it's lunchtime now, 1 o'clock, and I've made my way through all the emails with the exception of 10. So I have 10 left out of 190 or 290 or whatever, so that's not too bad. Haven't got stuck into the correspondence yet. Correspondence is still over there, and issues that arose, or correspondence that came in last week. I haven't got a chance either to look at the calendar to see the calls that came in last week. So that's where we're at. It's 1 o'clock now. I'm having my lunch in the office as I always do, and I have my own bread which I bake myself, nice brown bread with some honey in it and some walnuts. It's a very, very nice brown bread, and the recipe is from a book called Dough by Richard Bertonet. He is a baker that I came across online. I follow him on YouTube or Instagram or someplace. So that is the rock and roll lifestyle of a solicitor coming back after being away for a week's holidays. It's a question of catch up. I'm not too badly fixed now though. As I say, I've only got 10 emails left out of 190 or 290 or whatever it was. That's not too bad. In the afternoon, hopefully I'll be able to get tackling the correspondence, and then I'll get looking at the calls that came in last week, and then tomorrow hopefully tidy up everything and be ready to rock then from Wednesday onwards with full systems, full service resumed. That's the story so far. Today, as I say, the first day back after holidays. Normally I take an hour off for lunch every day between 1 and 2, but I'd always have my lunch here in the office. I'd never go out for lunch. it just suits me better to have it here in the office, and I like the routine. I like the habit that I have. Eat my own bread generally every day. It's either sourdough bread or brown bread or whatever. And as I say, I take an hour. Today I'm not taking an hour because I'm under pressure to recover and get back on the horse, as it were, after being away last week. So I'm nearly there now with the emails. The next thing I have to do in the afternoon is going to be the correspondence and so on. The final thing I'll have to do then will be the calls that came in last week. Then I'll be back to full swing hopefully on Wednesday. But in the meantime, it is a question of playing catch up, and it is a big enough price that when you're small business, and you don't have another solicitor, for example, working with you, etc., then catching up and playing catch up can be a bit of a chore, but it has to be done. And I operate on the basis of inbox zero. In other words, my inbox, I aim to empty it every day by close of business at 5 o'clock. I mightn't always do that, but that's the aim, and it really bugs me, really annoys me if there's a whole lot of emails in my inbox that are not dealt with. So that's how I operate. Lunchtime generally I will have a look at Twitter and have a look at YouTube and listen to the news. But today, as I say, I'm just under pressure, so I'm going to plug away and do what I have to do now. Okay, it's 5 o'clock in the evening now, and I've made good progress in terms of getting rid of the emails. Of all the emails taken care of, and I have a good bit of the letters and files and correspondence dealt with as well. So you can remember the piles that I had there this morning. This is all I have left at the moment, so that's not too bad. After that then I will be going through the calendar and looking at the calls that I had last week, and going through them and seeing if persons who contacted me were dealt with either by email or by some of the girls in the office here. But I will check all the calls, because that's what we do. We return calls, we return emails, we return letters. Now, you mightn't always like what we have to say, or our view or opinion, and it may be a case that I'm simply telling a person by email or otherwise that I simply can't help them. But we do, as a matter of professional courtesy and as a matter of just a professional obligation, we do ensure that we return all calls and we return all emails and letters and so on. So that's it. First day back after the holidays. Catching up, still catching up. Started at 6 o'clock this morning. It's 5 o'clock now in the evening time, and the pile is pretty well down, as you can see. The emails is over 190, I think, emails gone through. So we're in good enough shape there. So hopefully tomorrow morning now I'll be able to get the rest of the correspondence sorted out, and then ready to go then with consultations and back to sort of full service on Wednesday. So that's the joys of being self-employed and being small business owner or sole practitioner or whatever. And anybody who's a small business owner will know what I'm talking about and will recognise the difficulties that we do face from time to time in relation to going away. And going away is not the difficult part. Picking up the pieces when you come back is the difficult part. But anyway, we've made a good start.